Just a quick talk on cheap terrain base for your hobby wargaming. So these are foam 3D models by a company called Castlecraft. These are currently being sold at Dollaramas in Canada. At least there's 6 different kits based on iconic locations around the world, like the Notre Dame Basilica, the Eiffel Tower, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. This one happens to be a windmill. Maybe not as famous as the others, but it is a very good base piece to build a piece of multi-level terrain. That is a very good, maybe not a centerpiece, but very good for a lot of skirmish level games. Dollar stores have lots of great stuff for the basis for doing terrain builds. There's lots of YouTubers that'll have stuff like this terrain build costs like $3 or $1.50, $2.50 from rubbish or stuff from Dollarama, blah 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 blah.
I've been saving my own money and shit on the side. I found that drum machine in the ditch because some motherfucker chucked it away. One man's triz ass, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, that's great. You can do a lot of really cheap stuff. The thing is, though, is they don't really tell you is the extreme amount of time that can go into building all your stuff from scratch. And I know I've built some stuff from scratch in the past. I don't do a lot of buildings anymore. It's been some years. I think I built all of these actually all at once. I want to say about 2-3 years ago. Just in my basement. You know, a few different styles there. Got them kind of painted. Didn't really finish them up. Like I didn't get into painting up the windows and everything because they were good enough to use for like gaming sessions and stuff. And then they got put away on a shelf. And that's one of the biggest challenges with terrain and terrain kits is the storage aspect. When you're not using it, where is it going? Is it going to be part of like an actual diorama display? Is it going to take up precious space on your shelf? Or are you going to be putting it in storage containers? And guess what? Stuff like this doesn't really stack particularly well. You need a big container. Storage costs money, and you can't get a whole lot of things out. So when I saw these foam 3D models, I thought, hey, let's see how big they actually are when we build them. Is this good enough to use for, you know, on a gaming table, whether a skirmish game or larger war game? And more importantly, is can I put this together in a way that when it's done, I can take it apart and flat pack it away? So I picked up the windmill. Going through quickly what I had to do to these is, first off is actually trying to fit and finish on them. Out of the box, they don't fit together super great like they do, but actually it was like a fight. It took me like almost half an hour to struggle to get it to go together decently. And honestly, even the pictures on the back, like they look pretty like wonky. Clearly, even like from the factory, they don't have perfect jobs with them. That's fine. That was me just testing how it fitted just the way it was, because we were going to be changing stuff. First thing to do was finding all the very difficult fitting pieces. And what actually fit worse on these were these guys and these guys. A lot of them, the actual, like, you know, they don't quite line up. Some of the actual little tabs were too big. And or like when we want to put the holes right, or were so tight that because you're trying to get it into a bottom one and a top one that are both very tight and very finicky, you constantly be having them popping out and finding it in place. So the most obvious thing to do was to take all those little tabs and just taking off a couple millimeters on both sides. Now, the first time I did it, I didn't take off enough because I was going to coat everything with Mod Podge with some black paint, just like a black like hard coat sort of thing. But I didn't take up quite enough to make it a nice smooth fit, so I had to go back and just with the snipper snip off a little bit more and then reseal it and then done. Now with these sort of foam kits, if you're depending on what you're planning to paint with, like say, I would highly recommend that you seal everything up with Mod Podge and or like Mod Podge with like a black paint. Do like 1 part black paint, about 8 parts Mod Podge. It's not enough black paint to have it come out looking black, and coat the whole thing with that. Like, you don't have to go crazy heavy. Like say you don't want to get these so fat and thick that they won't fit. But once again, you can always adjust for that. I did 2 coats because I really want to make sure that those foam edges were nicely sealed, because I was going to rail count it, which I did. So once I got everything all, like say, coated up, and I tested the fit and everything fit okay, then everything got a coating of black primer. Once primed, then you can start actually painting it. Now, this isn't anything fancy. This is just hanging with like, okay, well, let's go something concretey and something kind of terracotta, and just make it really dirty, including on the ground. The reason being is I want these to be kind of universal, so I don't necessarily want to have like, you know, a really dedicated paint job. Now, later on, I'll probably go in and start painting in cracks and painting in effects like exposed brick and stuff like that. But for now, I'm just testing to see how well this thing would actually go together. And honestly, pretty good. All said and done, once everything's been coated and painted, it's less than 5 minutes to take apart, but it's about 5 minutes to put together. It's still a little finicky, but it's pretty quick. The most important thing though is that it packs flat. So it came in a box like this. It doesn't take up the whole box, obviously. So I know that I could get all 6 in the set, build them out to whatever styles that they're supposed to be and modify to what I aesthetically like. And I could pack all 6 of them into, well, this, not times 6, but roughly in terms of height, which means that it'll fit just fine in the common storage containers. Slightly larger storage containers from dollar store. Now, one of the advantages with these being something you can take apart and put back together whenever you need is obviously very easy to store. Also means I can paint up both sides different ways, so I can get different color schemes out of the whole set. Now, I could go ahead and start actually gluing greebles onto them and finishing them, but that's not something I'm actually looking to do. I don't want to detract from its ability to easily take apart and put away. So like greebles, like, yeah, we have a second floor here and even a third floor. I could make a ladder and glue a ladder up to the side, going up to the top here and up to here or something like that. Or I could just build a little ladder and then just prop it into place. If I'm worried about it staying up, if we're real rough and tumble with it on the table, I can just hold it in place with some sticky tack. Make little boxes, like 3 little boxes here that like look like crates or storage drums or what have you, whatnot that characters can climb up and up on top of the building. By not attaching the greebles, it gives me more flexibility on how I want to present it on the table and for different game scenarios. So it can then have different things added on to it for a fantasy game as opposed to a sci-fi game or for a current setting game. Now there is some more work I do obviously want to do to this. Like, this isn't done. This is just kind of where I got to before I decided, like, yeah, this is worth my time to continue with. And no, I couldn't be bothered to fill in all the gaps or anything like that. That's something you do when you have actually a nice kit. So if you were buying and spending like good money on a kit, you're going to be looking for something that you're going to fit and finish and probably have on display. Now, there's also the nice plastic kits from companies, and that they tend to be expensive, but they tend to be really nice when they're done, and they're fairly time efficient in the sense that you just glue them together and then prime and paint. There's MDF kits, which are relatively cheap for what you get out of them, but you have the added aspect of like there's gaps and like the actual like where things connect. Like you have to go in and do work to cover stuff up. Like you don't necessarily want these showing, so I gotta cut some sort of strips of something to cover this up, or maybe just cover up these entire walls here and then build and paint on what I want on top of it. So you still have time that you have put in to actually finish it to get to a point where it looks as nice as it can look. And those MDF kits can look really nice. They're not too expensive, but you still need to put time into it. Then there's like resin kits and all sorts of other stuff. There's all kinds of kits you can buy off the shelf. Whatever you get, you're always making a trade-off between what's the upfront cost, okay, versus how much time I'm willing to put into it. And remember, your time costs money. In my case, this is a $2.50 kit, so $2.50, not much in the way of financial costs, much higher cost in time, because all these pieces, like say they have to be coated and have to be set somewhere for them to dry. And they're going to, with my space, they're going to dry one side at a time. What should be really like a day project, whatnot, can easily drag out in this case to like a week. I'm like, okay, now it's at a point where I'd slap it down on a table and feel like it's fine to use like this. I mean, it'd be fine out of the box too, but I mean, aesthetically a bit more fine. And so that's your trade-off. So when you look at this sort of stuff, if you want something cheap to purchase, easy to build, and easy to store, yeah, $250 store, great little kits. But you do have to bear in mind that it's going to take time. And those are things that most YouTube, like terrain videos and terrain-based channels, don't like to tell you. Yeah, they want to sell the idea that this was made from rubbish. This cost me $1. This is $10. This is nothing. This was made from old lady's teeth. Well, they don't want to tell you. They don't want to tell you where all the stuff comes from. But what they don't want to usually tell you is the amount of time tends to be ludicrous, and you wouldn't put the time in generally for yourself. Maybe you would for one or two projects, and then decide if you really like doing these or not. But for most people, it's not for them. For myself, yeah, I like it. Like I say, I like dioramas. I like display pieces. I like something that's easy to store more than anything. So, would I recommend this to you? Yeah, cost-wise, yeah. And if you have the time and the interest to put something together, yeah, you can have a nice little kit. But you'd be better off spending 10 times the money and spending $20, and getting a nice MDF kit, and then finishing that up, because you'll have a much nicer product. Unless you want to be able to easily put it away, in which case, this guy wins. Alright, that's just a quickie. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Grab some paint. Grab a brush. Grab them all. Get something done. Have a great one.